mate.
Oh, lovely,
Here's a
mate.
brew.
Smashing. Thank you. Cheers. Gadget Show mug as well. Look at that.
I know. Got a story about that, haven't you, mate?
Oh, I've got many stories, mate. Many stories.
Welcome to episode 3. Hopefully I've kept you over the first 2 episodes. They've been pretty long, so thanks for watching if you have. Today I'm joined with Jake, who I've known for, how long have we known each other?
Oh, it's got to be about
7 years?
300 years now, yeah. I think it's about 7 years now, actually. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Because we actually met on a job, and I think you were sort of just out of college.
Yeah, I was actually, and you didn't know this, did you, to be fair? So I think it was an advert for laminate flooring. That's what it was,
yeah.
right. Exciting stuff.
It is actually really good laminate flooring, the ones we were working for.
But basically, I think that was one of my first jobs that I actually got back on then.
So was that just your first job out of college sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'd studied 2 years film and television in Birmingham, and just basically went straight into freelancing. So for me, that was one of the first jobs. I'd met Matt, who we were doing the job for. He was a character in himself.
Hello, Matt, if you're
How are
watching.
you,
Matt Cannon.
Legend. We've got many stories about you, by the way.
Too many.
Too many. But so that was one of the first jobs. And I walked in, you were there, C300s up, and away we went. Yeah.
They were like really used massively, weren't they, for a good few years?
Yeah, there was a time I think where I think it was just before like the FS7s and everything come out, wasn't it? Where everybody was just shooting on C300s, and they couldn't get enough of them. Like the hire companies were just smashing them out. But I always found that camera actually really interesting, because it was like they'd built it and then gone, shit, we forgot to put a screen on it. Right, we're going to have to do something here. Oh no, we'll put it on the top, we'll send that out, great, away we go. You know.
Oh, there's no handle? Oh, you can screw that on as well.
Yeah, screw that on, yeah. And we'll make it extra as well to buy.
Do you have to pay extra for it?
You probably do.
I didn't know that.
You do with most stuff, like the Ursas and stuff.
Yeah, the C300 was nice. I preferred the image on that over the FS7. Obviously you were lacking 4K and everything.
They were very warm. I think you had more of a red tone, which I think is a Canon thing anyway.
Yeah, but a lot of people say the Sony colour's not very nice, don't they?
Well, yeah, which is why I haven't got a Sony now, you know, to be fair.
But anyway, on that job that you came on, I was just like letting you shoot stuff, because I don't think I actually knew that you hadn't really got that much experience
and
at
I'm
that
scared.
point.
I'm thinking, here's this 40-year-old bloke.
It was,
you know, we're filming all his life.
I'd have been like 28.
We're filming all his life, this Wolverhampton geezer. And he's there, and I thought, you know, I've got to try and get myself in here. I'm just going to let him lead, but then I think he actually switched in the end.
Ended up giving you the camera at the end, and I was just watching.
Just go and film some stuff. Here it is. Have a tea, James, please, mate.
It was when
Matt, you're still doing them to this day.
Yeah, Matt was like, "You just let him have the camera, mate. You just let him have the camera." I was like, "I don't know. I didn't know he was like new." But to be fair though, that's always like surprised me about you, which is like one thing I will say, and take it as a compliment. Thanks. Please.
I'll pay you £10 later.
I always have to try and remember you're only still 25.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, because like
25.
you do come across as like an old head. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I guess you might get that off quite a lot of
Yeah,
people.
I do. I feel 45 if I'm honest with you. I mean, I'm shattered to be honest. But yeah, I think I started very early on. So I was sort of, I think 16 when I had my first photography business. And you know, I kept the moustache, so I looked a lot older back then as well. And I was just doing weddings for people from a very early age. You know, I got my mum who'd come in with me as an assistant, and I'd pay her £100 to say thank you, you know, plus the fuel. And she was there helping getting things ready, and I bought a Nikon D40, I think it was back then, which was a terrible camera, but it managed to get me through the weddings and stuff like that. And I'd be doing the albums myself, and I'd go down to Asda and the instant print, and I'd get all the photos done for people. Like, you know, it wasn't very like professional, but it was a good start into the world of sort of making images, really. And then, you know, obviously sort of moving on into film after I'd gone to college.
So was that always the goal, like from doing photos, or were you just always interested in that sort of like creating stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I've always enjoyed watching films. You know, I very much watch film for the way that they're shot, rather than the physical film itself, which I think a lot of people in our industry do.
Yeah.
But I found that, you know, obviously sort of moving on into film after I'd gone to college, you know, for me, there was a great place that was just opening. There was a college that was brand new. There was nothing really like it in Birmingham at the time. This was Birmingham Ormiston Academy. So it was like all in the newspapers. I'd seen the ads and I said, I'm just going to go and I'm going to apply. I'm going to see if I can get in. And it was creative media production. So you did radio, TV and broadcast studies and things like that for the first year. And then after that, you then sort of went down whichever route you preferred, which was for me, obviously, the film side of things.
But was that something you decided while you were on the course, that you preferred the film bit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, I think before I went, I knew anyway. Obviously, with me making images and stuff like that, I enjoyed the radio side of it. You know, it was a good laugh, but I just knew that I wanted to go more down the film route.
Yeah.
And I'd find that was the stuff that just excited me the most, really. And I've never really been, you know, obviously, like a lot of directors, a lot of people in film. They know everything about every film. They know who shot it. They know when it was shot. They know what it was shot on and stuff like that. I know some of that, but I've never been really into being a bit of a film geek, if that makes sense. You know, for me, I was just really creative and I enjoyed making ads and making commercials, really, more than films, to be honest with you. So that's where I am.
And then we were also chatting about, like, obviously leaving college is quite a daunting thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like you sort of. I remember when I did it, I was like thinking to myself, what would I do now?
Yeah.
Like, you know, where am I going to get this next job from? Where am I going to get this stepping stone thing?
Yeah.
So you said you worked quite a few years and basically just tried to help people out, emailed people.
Yeah. So I left college, and whenever people say to me, "How did you start in the industry?" I kind of just basically say, well, I started in, you know, bits and bobs of TV and stuff like that. And when I look actually back at what I did, that's not really true. And I think that, you know, whenever you go onto Wikipedia or something and you sort of type in, how did so-and-so make it in the industry? You know, you kind of look at it and they're studying film, and then all of a sudden they're directing Friends or something massive, and you think, where's that bit in between? And I guess that bit for me in between was when I'd left college. I had met quite a lot of contacts whilst I was there. I was doing a lot of networking, work experience, stuff like that. And then found that I just wanted to use those contacts rather than going to uni. So I basically just started doing free work. And I think I did probably 2 years worth of free work for people, just out shooting at lads, little promos, filming events around Birmingham and stuff like that. I'd sort of bit the bullet and bought myself a Canon 5D Mark III, which was a great little camera back then for doing that kind of stuff, and away I went, basically. So that was how I started, which was good because it meant that I could make mistakes. I was in a position where you know, it wasn't life or death if I did make a few mistakes, so it was a good learning curve for me. And I think that was really important because college taught me a lot of the skills, you know, the paper kind of skills and the codes and conventions of advertising and all of that. But I really got hands-on after I'd left. And it was then, like when they say when you're learning to drive, right, you actually learn to drive when you've passed your test and you're out and about doing stuff. Yeah. And for me, it was the same with this. And I think that was a really valuable time to sort of get my head around the industry a little bit more and understand how to actually shoot things, you know, not on full auto and things like that, basically.
So in terms of, as well as, you know, meeting new people and growing your sort of portfolio which you had behind you to showcase to people, what would you say was like the most important thing? Would you say it was the material you had, or was it meeting new people and networking and making contacts? Or
for me back then, I think I just wanted to meet as many people as I possibly could. The industry in Birmingham is small, you know, and I thought that if I can get in with, you know, one person, that would lead me to the next. And for me, that was the most valuable thing. And I seriously believe that a lot of this industry is who you know. Yeah. You know, and I know people who know everything about film, as I've said, but they don't know that many of the right contacts, you know. And I feel like that's a really important part of this industry. So for me, when I'd left, going out and doing a job, and then I would meet somebody else, you know, and then they'd then sort of recommend me to that person, etc. And that's how it kind of all built. But that's then how I basically ended up moving on to then starting my own production company. So when I'd done a couple of years worth of filming, I'd managed to get on some good sort of little commercials. I did the Gadget Show. And I'd also done...
That was from Gadget Show Live a few years
it's a bit
ago.
faded, this one. It's a bit old, isn't it?
Yeah, it's had its time, to be fair. I bet that mug's about as old as you.
Probably is, yeah. Probably is. I'd done three series of the Gadget Show as a camera op on that, which was great. That was my first paid gig, really, I think. And then I went on to another Channel 4 documentary inside Birmingham Children's Hospital. And that was a fantastic job to get on, actually. And it was also a little bit of an accident because I had a call off one of the camera hire companies who basically said to me, we're crewing out this show. One of their camera ops is ill tonight. We need somebody in Birmingham in an hour to go and film for them. Can you do it? And I was just like, yeah, what are they shooting on? We're shooting on FS7s. Now, I'd never touched an FS7 before, so I said to the hire company, have you got one in? I can come to you and I literally can just have 5 minutes of looking at the buttons and things like that, basically. So at least when I go to the set, I know what I'm doing. So that's what I did. I went straight down to Birmingham, had a little play, got my head around it, went to this job. So I was like, oh yes, FS7, no worries, used one before, absolutely fine. Put it all on, got it all set up and everything else. And just film these interviews, basically. Still didn't know what it was for. And they basically said, that was great. It's a Channel 4 documentary. Can you come again tomorrow? And I said, yes. Still didn't know why. Just went back, filmed more interviews. Anyway, that's when I think I was about 3 days into this that I'd basically said to them, what are we even shooting for? And they said it was for inside Birmingham Children's Hospital, name to be confirmed at the time. And I said this was great, and it ended up being about a 6-month stint of just going out and filming the interviews with the families on the location of the studio location, and doing the doctor interviews and stuff. And that was a fantastic experience for me. And I was learning so much on that job. And I think that's one thing that I realise now, is that was a job where I just said yes. I had no fear, just said yes, and I just learnt on the way. And it's still something that I do now, is if someone says, can you do this? And I've never done it before, I'll be like, yes, and I'll make it happen, And I remember the day that I was on set, they said to me, right, okay, great. The director said, can we wrap and wrangle now, please? So I was like, yeah, no worries. Let me just pop to the toilet and I'll do it when I get back. Hadn't got a clue what wrap and wrangle meant at this time. So I'm then sitting there on the toilet and I'm like, what is wrap and wrangle on Google? trying to get a signal in this toilet, because there was just nothing. Finally found out, and it's basically just a fancy name for copying the footage over onto the computer, right? A little bit more than that.
Didn't bring up a pair of jeans, Wrangler jeans or something?
No, it did first, yeah. I got all sorts of results. It was very strange. Anyway, managed to find it. So then I was like straight back in that room and I was like, right, I need that computer, I need the card reader, bring it all to me, I'll sort it all out, basically. And the rest is history. So
that's good, man.
That was the way it went down.
Yeah, that is the way it happens sometimes, though, isn't it? Like, you get cover for people, or, you get someone out of a tight spot and then you end up getting the job. There's a lot of things that happen like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, like, on that show, when you filming it,
yeah,
was it a big crew? Because, like, obviously that's a prime time Channel 4 thing, really, isn't it? Like,
yeah, I think
it's
it was
midweek,
on at 9 o'clock or something. Yeah,
it's prime time, isn't it? So, like, did you light stuff yourself? Did you have a lighting?
Yeah, it was strange, actually. The job was instead of having like a director, a camera operator, a camera assistant, the budget I don't think was there for everybody like that to have a big team. So you kind of found out that you'd have self-shooting directors who would then have a camera assistant. So I was the camera assistant on those. But as a camera assistant, you were doing quite a lot of work to the point where, you would be setting up the gear for the interviews. Yes. You'd be tweaking the background of the set to make it look right. During the filming, I was then obviously doing the lighting, setting up the dados in the background and the rotor lights and whatever else that we were using. And then when the interviews were being sort of, undertaken and the director's talking to the contributor, I'm there basically just pulling focus, monitoring audio and stuff like that. And you are basically a camera operator. Yeah. But it's just a slightly different
it's almost
title.
like you do all the legwork and the director who's self-shooting it is just the one who presses record and makes sure that the end framing is how he wants it and stuff.
Says it all, doesn't it, really?
Yeah. Sort of like what you do to me now, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
Absolutely. You got to earn it, mate.
Definitely.
But
yeah, that's good though, isn't it? That's good to get... That's good to get like straight in on the Gadget Show and stuff.
It was really good, yeah. again, started as sort of camera assistant on that, and then ended up, as the episodes progressed, having a little bit more responsibility. And I'm quite passionate about if I think something's wrong. So there'd be times where we film in an interview or whatever it is, and I'd be like, actually, maybe we should do it this way. And you just kind of have suggestions. And at first, those suggestions are, what do you know? And then eventually, as we kind of gone on, those suggestions would be listened to. And they'd kind of go, okay, let's try it, let's see what happens. And you'd have a little bit more influence. So, I'd love to be able to go back on that now as a director and just be like, this is how we're going to do that. That's what I'd love to do. I'm still trying, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So after that stint then, was that when you sort of started up HIPSTER?
Yes. So HIPSTER was the production company. I started in 2016. I'd met my former business partner back then, and we basically just said, let's see what job comes in, and we'll do it together.
Yeah. So at that time, you were sort of separate entities.
Yeah.
And then you were trying to get some work in, and then obviously the first good job that came in, you sort of got together and
I was film, he was photography.
Okay.
So that's why we kind of said, let's that would be David Brent, that wasn't it? Let's merge together on the. That's it exactly. Let's merge together on the first job that comes in. This isn't going very well.
Anyway.
Let's merge together and let's see what comes through. And a couple of weeks later, I had a call, and it basically said, we've got a brief already that's come in, TV advert to go on ITV between the X Factor, I'm a Celebrity, on the run up to Christmas. This was 2014. This was.
So where did that come in from? Was that something that
to
one
this
of you
day,
got?
I don't know. No, I think we got a contact in a media buying agency who basically said, we want to offer the production out. Yeah. Now, the budget for this was £5,000 to do a TV
that's pretty
ad.
low, isn't it, really?
Well, I found
Considering
out...
it's going to go in between...
I found out afterwards that ITV, if you were putting an ad on with them through the media buying agency, they actually contribute £5,000 to the total cost for you to get the advert made.
Oh, so someone pocketed the whole production
basically.
budget and gave you the
£5,000. So they had it done for pretty much nothing, I believe. But I said yes, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Come up with a campaign that basically was shot around the custard factory. We had a parkour stunt guy who was running around basically doing backflips off the walls and things like that with the football.
It was I'm going to say the brand Police, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Police sunglasses, yeah. So I shot that myself. We just did everything ourselves, and I think we made £1 each by the time that we'd finished in profit. And it was those pounds each which we then used to start HIPSTER as a business, and that's how it kind of grew from there. I mean, that ad was great exposure for us. We'd then got a commercial which we could straight away put up on and say, we've done TV advertising, even if the budget was awful. But it just shows that we could do it really. So yeah, I mean, HIPSTER came about then. It actually came about in a funny way because we were in a meeting for another project with an agency, and the agency said to us, what's the company name again? And we hadn't got one. we were basically just like a bit like Del Boy and Rodney, turned into this meeting, and we're like, yeah, we'll have a go at this. Why not?
There's a theme. There's a theme.
Just winging it. Yeah. Fake it till you make it. But that's a good point, actually. You've just made me aware of that.
Yeah.
So I think my business partner just basically saw a word on his computer and just said HIPSTER, and that's how it stuck.
To be fair, at the time when you launched it, there was a big HIPSTER thing going on as well.
There was, yeah. It was all
really
moustaches
bizarre.
and braces and stuff like that, with jeans.
So maybe that's why it was on the computer.
Well, I've never
like the in thing.
Maybe so. Maybe it was. Yeah, I've never been a hipster. Which was the hipster thing about us, is that we were hipsters who weren't hipsters, if that makes sense. So we were a bit different from the crowd. Anyway, set that up as a business finally, officially. And we'd got ourselves a few campaigns through agencies. And then I was directing those, I was sort of self-shooting those, editing those, just doing a little bit of everything ourselves, really, and being a little bit of a jack of all trades on those.
Yeah.
And then we got ourselves a little office at the custard factory, just carried on trying to get in with new agencies and stuff like that. So I suppose from a director point of view, that's where I've always been a little bit different in terms of it's the marketing side as well that I've got quite a bit of experience with. So I've usually had to go out, you know, and I've pitched for the shoots. I've done the research on the audiences and stuff for the shoots. Then on the day of actually filming them, I've got to consider what I want to make and what looks amazing. What the camera guys want to do, because obviously they want to be trying new things and doing some good content, show reel stuff, right? But also I've got the client side as well and what they want. So it's a little bit of a juggling act, and it's going, how can we kind of do something that makes everybody happy? And that's, I think, where my experience has kind of lay, really, for the last sort of few years. So HIPSTER ran for about 4 years. About 3 years, and we'd got to a point where we were doing great work for people like Worcester Bosch was our biggest client. And HIPSTER was very much built on the quality of work.
Yeah.
We hadn't got very much in terms of portfolio pieces that we could show to people. So we'd got some decent budgets in the end that were handed to us for some of these projects. But we'd literally make like £100 each on these ads because we just wanted to pump as much quality.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I remember like at the time, like you'd see sort of like your social media posts and you'd be like, bloody hell, splashing out on the kit.
Yeah.
You know, they've got a lot of people on this job, which, you know, like, I think it was good. Like, from my point of view, I was like, blooming hell, like, they're doing really, really well. But like, as you say, you know, the sacrifice of that was you know, you potentially weren't taking home as much money.
No, we weren't.
So, like, I guess my question is like, you know, what in hindsight now, is that the right thing to do?
It's an interesting question because there's two sides to it. So the one side that was great is that obviously we were making amazing work.
Yeah.
We got these showreel pieces that we could go, this is what we could do. So anytime a new client comes in, they knew the quality of work. We could up those prices little bits here and there to basically reflect the work that we were putting in and the quality we were putting in.
Yeah.
But with the existing clients that we'd got very strong relationships with, you know, if they'd come to us and said, we want an advert doing for £20,000 and we'd put all the quality in, they'd then come to us again and they'd say, what can you do for £40,000? This is our budget. We'd be a bit like stuck because we'd go, well, we've already kind of put everything into a 20 grand ad. And that's where we were really, really struggling because we were very pigeonholed then with our prices in terms of this is what they can deliver. But we were also expected to also deliver the same quality of work, which meant that we couldn't, off the same clients, make a fat lot of money, really, which in a business sense doesn't make any sense.
Isn't that the same at all levels, though, in a way? Like, if you price yourself, like, low and you're known as the person who does stuff for cheap, you sort of get stuck in... I think it's, like, probably the same for all budget levels, isn't it? But I don't know, like, what do you think? Because, like, I think sometimes if you go in too low, it's hard then to... People always expect, oh, well, he did it for that much, whatever. Or that company did it for that much. And then expect you to do it again next time, even though the first time might be because you want to start a relationship. So is that not sort of the same?
But there was two sides to what we offered. I think one was obviously the level of the quality of the ads. But I think the other really important thing to clients was the service that we offered. Yeah. So yes, there was the on-screen quality, but something I was really passionate about was getting the client as involved in the production as possible. Yeah. So when we were out shooting, I'd want them there on location. I'd then, when we were in the edits and they would have the sound mix that was being done, you know, they'd come out for the day, they'd come to the sound mix, they'd see this advert being brought to life, and it was a very immersive experience for them. We then had a relationship with an independent cinema in Birmingham where we'd basically ask the client to come down for the day, we'd display the ad on the big screen at the cinema, and they'd see it and be kind of wowed by the stuff that we'd produced. And that was a big level of why people said, we love going with HIPSTER, because it's, you know, you don't just kind of give them the money and then you see a final ad, you know, you're involved the whole way. And that's something to this day I still like to do. So it was a balancing act of trying to offer the value as well, you know.
Because I guess you've got to as well, like, it does sound like a really good experience for clients. Like, I think that's like something that a lot of production companies that I've worked with in the past probably don't do, that sort of thing. Did you ever find that, like, sometimes... I guess some people are really going to like that. Some people are just going to want to be a bit like, have that initial meeting, discuss what we want, come back to me when it's done, sort of thing, aren't they, certain people? Did you ever find that was... It was a battle getting people so involved.
Yeah, it was different with the agencies. Agencies are obviously really busy. They've got a lot of clients to deal with, and they are basically just pass us the work and away we go. In that situation, it was fine. We were happy if that's the way that they wanted to proceed, but then it was more of the direct clients that we wanted to build those strong relationships with. So again, I think it depended on who the client was and also the scale of a job. I mean, a couple of grand event film where we're literally just going out shooting shots of, you know, someone handing out energy drinks at the ball ring and people's interviews and stuff like that.
Doesn't require it. Yeah, it doesn't really require a client necessarily.
It's a standard thing. No, absolutely. But when it was a bigger commercial.
But even still, though, I've been on jobs, and I'm potentially with you in the past. I don't know, but like I've been on jobs where like the clients just like don't turn up, and it's like, well, I'm doing what I think is right, or like, you know, the director's doing what they think is right, and then you know really sometimes you get to the end, it's like, oh, well, why haven't you got this? Why haven't you got that? It's like, well,
should have been there.
You should have been on set. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, I think I'll always,
as like filmmakers, or you know, as a director especially, you're always trying to listen to their needs, aren't you? And like, you know, in the initial meetings, build up, you know, a good brief and a good like concept to work to. But there's always going to be like little nuances that they want different to what you want, aren't they?
Yeah, of course there is. But again, that sometimes isn't necessarily that there's right or wrong.
Exactly,
it's a director's choice, you know, and it's
what's it called? Isn't it? It's like people's own.
You'll get it in a minute.
Yeah, it'll come to me.
Another cup of tea.
Subjective.
It's subjective,
isn't it? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, I can do something which I think's brilliant, but the next person will do something slightly different, and they'll think that that's better than the one I've done or the version I've done of it or whatever.
Yeah, and there is no right or wrong.
Exactly.
But that's why I'd make them aware of what I'm trying to achieve before, obviously, I'll go to the location and get those visuals. And we would still have conversations after where people say, haven't you got this and haven't you got that? But I think that they would get to a point where I'd always got a reason as to why something was shot a certain way.
Yes.
So I'd be able to discuss that with them and then they'd understand. And I think after we'd built those relationships up, they kind of knew that I was considering the things that they were thinking. Yeah. And they then wouldn't ask necessarily as much when they had the edit. Yeah. They'd just go, yeah, good, hopefully, anyway. You know, that's what you wanted. So yeah, it was a challenge to build that. But one thing that I always found is that with HIPSTER, I'd get given a budget, and imagine someone said to me, oh, you've got 30,000. For me, I'm going, oh, lovely, you know, I can create a 60-second ad with a 30-second cut, which is like, you know, a lovely little campaign that we can do for these guys and whatever else. And then I'd just literally focus on some really strong ideas, and I'd want it to be visually pleasing. So we'd shoot on Harry, we'd get anamorphic lenses in, we'd get you in to do the behind the scenes. There was... and that's a running joke, by the way. But James, for some reason,
I've stepped up now.
He's stepped up now into the world.
Hopefully.
But he always used to be just the behind the scenes
guy.
I
was once, and then I got branded as that
because he was funny, you know.
Yeah,
it was funny.
We do have a joke.
And we love each other really.
It really hurts inside, though. You know.
Yeah. What was that?
I think that's
Alexa. He's got a delivery.
Yeah, but I think that is a notification. So I've got a parcel coming. So.
Alexa. What's my notifications? Let's have a listen.
One new notification. From Amazon Shopping. A shipment is due to arrive today, including mini drone.
Hey, there you go. Mini drone.
Mini drone. But do you know what? That's for my son, because he's like obsessed with my Mavic Pro. And I keep flying it in the back garden, and my back garden's not very big, and it is going to crash one of these days. So I thought I'll just buy a little 30 quid one and he'll be happy.
There you go. New to the Motion Artist Collective.
I'll fly it in here next episode, episode 4.
You bring the teas in. Fly the teas in. Anyway.
It was a good job that one, anything embarrassing on it.
That's what I was hoping for, mate. That's what I was really hoping for.
I think there's something else coming as well, I can't remember what it was.
Maybe we don't want to know that one.
Let's not...
So, yeah, it was all about making a great film. Yeah. And we deliver good film, but sometimes it wasn't right for the audience that it was going out to. And that was because a lot of that audience research initially, I didn't understand. I didn't really do that much. So, for example, I've done a campaign for, not long ago that was for Co-op, and it was for Viagra, right? So this ad was advertised at people over 50, but there was also an interesting group of between 25 and 35-year-olds who basically struggle to do that. Because of stress and whatever else. So we had to try and find where the right place was to advertise to
the
them.
balance between going too old and like excluding them, and not going too young and excluding the older age group.
Yeah, that's it.
Just trying to balance it out.
Yeah, of course. Now, before I'd just make a film and I'd put it out there, and that was the issue with HIPSTER. So, moving on after HIPSTER, I went and basically HIPSTER was acquired by a larger marketing agency, which was called Superdream, and I went to work for them as their head of film. And that is where I then got a lot of my agency experience into the actual building of a campaign and all of that pre-production.
Yeah.
And I realise now how vital and important that is. So when I'm getting a brief come through, it's no longer, okay, what visuals can I create that's going to be amazing for this? It's straight away asking, okay, who's the audience? Where are they viewing this content? What action do you want them to take when they've previewed this ad, and stuff like that. And really getting all of that insight first. And from an agency, that was literally what you used to do.
Is it sort of like, do they do the same thing with film, you might know? Because there's that marketing funnel thing in there, and it's like you got to get them through so many stages, so they eventually buy or use your brand, isn't it? Is it the same sort of thing?
Similar, yeah. I mean, we knew that for an ad, for example, we usually have to show the same person the ad about 3 times before they will start to take any action. You expect them to make a transaction or do something after 5 times of viewing it.
Yeah.
But if after 7 times of watching and they've not done anything, you'd kind of let them go.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of getting a little bit into marketing now, which is where I get excited.
Isn't there a Google zero moment of truth thing as well? There's I'm sure there's a Google zero moment of truth rule where it's like you've got to have seen the brand in so many different locations at so many different times or something before you're ready to make the purchase or something.
Yeah, there's so much research on it. And strategy.
Sort of similar type thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And it was all of that I learned when I was working in agency. So it was now going from just making good visuals to how do we build a proper campaign here. Yeah. And the issue that I have with film, and when I'm dealing with it from a client's point of view, is when someone says to me, how much is, I want a video. You get an email, I want a video. How long's a piece of string? How do I measure what they want and everything else, but also how do they know that what I'm offering them is value? And that was something that was really difficult, because if I say to you, okay, to do all of that and to film 2 days, we're going to shoot it on our Alexa Minis and all this, as a client, they don't know what that is. And they probably don't care what that is. What they want to know is this going to sell me more of this product and whatever else? So I had to really consider all of that. And that is, for me, what makes it tangible. Yeah. So if I can say, if you create a £10,000 ad or you spend 10 grand on this, then, it's going to be done into several smaller chunks that goes out on Facebook. It's going to get in front of this many people. You want to sell 300 units, then this is how we get in front of those people who are going to buy those units. And we structure it as more of a campaign. They can physically see what they're getting for their money. Yeah. And that was something that... We're getting a lot of distractions today, by the way.
Sorry. Go on. I had put my phone on silent, but it's now calling my computer, which is great. That
was something that was that I now have to consider, basically, and that I really learned. And that's the thing that makes the value in making a film or a video for somebody. I don't know how that answers the previous question, which was probably asked,
I think it's good
20
because
minutes ago.
No, I feel like that's good because because from my experience, I've been doing video for like nearly 15 years, and a lot of the time, if I don't get many direct clients these days, I'm normally work with like people like yourself or different production companies. But I think a lot of the time people will come to you and say they want a video, but they don't really know why.
What they want.
Yeah, and it's like, I think that's, to have that level of detail, like you say, like looking into potentially like how many clicks you're going to need from Facebook. Like on average, how many clicks through do you get before someone actually buys something? Yeah. So it's like you sort of know if you get 6,000 clicks, you'll sell 300 items, or if you get 10,000 clicks, you'll sell, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's sort of like, I guess it's sort of in a way, it's like if you can drive so many people, you sort of know so many people are going to convert, which I guess is a good way, like you say, instead of selling them on, we're going to use the best kit and we're going to use the best this and that. Yeah. It's like metrics of, we can pretty much guarantee you if you spend this money and we do it this way, that you're going to get this many.
And this is where I've had to sell it to them in a marketing point of view.
Yeah.
I have to be a marketeer for that.
Yeah.
I'm not a film director in that. So in that meeting, I'm going into it very differently. When I'm on set, I'm then a director.
Yeah.
And it's then having to combine those two skills, which is, as I say, where I'm a little bit sort of different with what I offer. And I struggle to explain it to people because sometimes you forget it yourself a little bit, I suppose. So yeah, that's something really interesting. I mean, in terms of targeting, whilst we're talking about it quickly, have you heard of Sky AdSmart at all?
I haven't.
So TV advertising is expensive, right? Everybody knows that. And the old traditional way was you want an advert that goes out after X Factor or whatever it is at the time, Top of the Pops, I don't know, whatever you're into. Takeshi's Castle, probably.
Do your X Factor voice.
No. I'll do that later. I'll save that for the end.
Do it at the end, yeah.
I'll do it at the end. You've got to stay tuned for that one.
To do that.
But Sky AdSmart now is a new way of TV advertising.
Okay, yeah.
So you used to put the advert out, it'd go out and you go, great, we're reaching 6.5 million people watching the X Factor, but how do I physically know that they haven't gone to the toilet, they haven't fast forward through, they're actually the right audience for me? And that's why you used to pay a fortune, because it was to everybody. Sky AdSmart is a new platform which basically means that you can target the ads specifically to who you want through your Skybox. So a Skybox, it knows your age, location, it knows if you've got a south-facing garden, it knows if you've got anybody with disabilities living in the house. The profile that it's got on you is unbelievable, and it's all through something called Experian data.
And is this all like,
it's all
this
legal.
is all like written into your contract that you're signing about, isn't it?
Yeah, well, this is all the research we do initially.
Yeah.
So with this co-op advert that I told you about, that went out on Sky AdSmart.
Okay.
So we knew that we had certain houses that we were targeting where people were over 50 or they were between 25 and 35, that they were of the kind of things that they buy. We knew all this data, which is kind of creepy that we know all of this stuff, but we knew quite a lot on people. And that then means that instead of putting that ad out to 6 million people, you're only putting the advert out to the ones that actually are going to be relevant for you, which makes it a lot more affordable because you're not paying for everyone, you're paying for just that group.
Yeah.
So those ads are stored on your Skybox. Sky, you know when it says please initialise and please wait, it's part of that process where it's basically bringing in those new ads relevant for your profile on that Skybox.
Okay.
So you could be watching the X Factor. The person next door could be watching the X Factor who's 60. When the ad breaks come on, you'll have totally different adverts because they're targeted for you as a person.
So almost when the programme cuts, some sort of signal sent from the broadcaster to trigger the Skybox to play the ads that are relevant to you.
I'm not sure of how it works, like in terms of the technical side. But
with streaming, I can probably understand. But
yeah,
like for
like
broadcast,
video on demand and stuff, it's the same way.
Broadcast, it'd be interesting to see how that works.
Yeah, it's took that approach on of like video on demand, as you say. You sign into Channel 4, you've then put your details in, it knows who you are. So if you've been talking about wanting perfume or aftershave, then it will give you probably an advert for, Tommy Hilfiger or whatever it is that you're interested in. And TV's now gone the same way with Sky AdSmart. So it's but also the thing that's interesting is if you record a programme that's you're now watching 6 months later, it can also change the ads out on the old one. Yeah, so you won't see an ad from 3 years ago. You'll see an ad that's relevant to you right now. And it's very interesting how it works, but the views count only if you've watched it in real time. So if you're fast forwarding through, that won't count. So as a marketer, the person whose ad that is, you won't pay for that view. It's very targeted now, and it makes it really interesting. So that's why for me, doing what I'm doing now, I have to do all of that as well as the directing side of things.
Which is good, man. That's really good. It's good to have that in-depth knowledge anyway. It's going to help, obviously, with a lot of clients who obviously do want to sell products and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's just good to know.
That's it, yeah.
There's something else I was going to talk about then as well. So it's sort of like, that's what I was going to say. Sort of like the same as Facebook in a way, isn't it? You sort of know who you're targeting. Yeah. Like when you put a boosted post or an ad.
Yeah, and Facebook knows if you've just hovered over an ad. If you hover over it or it's previewed on your screen for more than 3 seconds, then it like classes it as a view of that ad. I'm not sure of the exact stat on that, but it's something like that anyway. That was me being at Superdream, learnt all of that information, which is why after I'd left there and I wanted to pursue the next step, which was, I went and worked for Vermilion for 10 months as their director internal. I was able to take all of that information on board, basically.
Yeah.
And I think it was my time at Vermilion where we've probably worked the closest together on quite a lot of commercials. So obviously
I moved up from behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, you were actually DOPing things. I mean, it's incredible, really. But I mean, yeah, it was you with your obviously the Ursa, which was a camera that I'd fell in love with. Obviously working on the shoots with you and stuff. And we've done some good work, hadn't we? I mean, we've done stuff for, there was the West Midlands Trains campaign, which was a great sort of 4-day shoot, all sort of moving as little takes as possible.
That was a whole gimbal rig, wasn't it? Movi rig with Ursa Mini and what's the overhead thing that you put? Easy rig.
Oh, your Easy rig and stuff, yeah.
And
Serene Arm and all the rest of it.
And a puppeteer thing, yeah. 4 days of...
4 days of that, yeah. And I think you needed a massage afterwards, didn't you? I didn't give it him, he asked me. But
I had no back left.
I had no back
basically.
Left. You were very slow on the last day. You were, I mean, loading you in and buckling you up into your Easy rig. I thought, oh, she's getting a bit cruel now.
The first down, that was a nightmare as well, wasn't it?
The what, sorry?
The first down.
Well, we were supposed to shoot quite a lot on the first day. I think it was the busiest day out of all of them, actually, and basically after an hour... We got
like about an hour and a half in, didn't we?
It just started chucking it down, didn't it? And it didn't stop all day.
It was literally thunderstorms.
Yeah, and we sat out in the rain for about 4 hours under trees, and we'd try, and the minute we'd go and get it'd just break, there'd be a little break in the clouds, we'd run out, we'd get everything set up. As soon as we were good to go, it'd start smashing down again. Yeah. And we just didn't manage to get anything, did we?
No. Well, we got like 1 shot or 2 shots in between showers, didn't we?
Yeah.
You'll have to give me the clip of if you've got it, when the cows start walking past.
Well, that was the thing. That was the moment I think we said it's time to call it a day. I mean, the cows were literally walking over the hill, and we said, you know what?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
We're done. Let's go.
I'm sure I've probably got some video clips I can cut in of it pouring down the rain.
But
it was still a fun shoot though.
We clawed it back though, didn't we?
But it was
covered it on the other
It's
days.
interesting though, because we did claw it back, and obviously you'd never know, but it did put everyone under pressure quite a lot, didn't it?
Well, I turned grey after that shoot. I mean, there was a lot to consider, and there was a lot of moves, and each shot had quite a lot of prep for it, didn't it? Because there was a lot of rehearsal. There'd be various lines and people walking in and that on one shot, and that was the point of it. Is that I'm a little bit obsessed with one take, so as much as I can do without the camera cutting, which was probably the wrong approach for that ad, really, because I mean, if you look at it now, it was great, the final content, but it meant that we were so stuck with the weather shooting outdoors that you'd have to get 10 minutes break to be able to film anything.
Doing that type of thing, it is that thing of there's so many elements that have to drop in to get the take right. It's like I can't fuck up. The actor who's walking on stage can't be a second late or whatever, and you end up doing 4, 5, 6 takes sometimes, don't you, to try and get all the movement right and everyone hitting their marks and stuff. Yeah. It was quite fun though. Yeah. It was good. Enjoyed it.
One of the ads I think I really want to talk to you about on this is the JCB content that we did. Good. We shot that in I think it was August, September, and I think it was a little bit later than that actually.
It was
September,
getting
October,
quite cool,
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was getting quite cool.
Dark mornings.
It was 5 a.m. starts, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was very too early. 3 sausage sandwiches down before we even rolled the cameras, and that was just you. We had a brief come in, and we had to produce some content for JCB. So Agritechnica 2019 is a big agricultural show, and JCB wanted this content for their screens. And the screen resolution that they were outputting this content on was 8 metres by 2 metres, which meant that obviously as a letterbox,
I think
it was extremely thin.
I think it was something like 3,200 pixels wide by 800 high.
Yeah.
So, it was literally like a thin little strip in the middle.
Yeah. And we wanted to do some fairly close-up things on people.
Yeah.
But obviously we're having to shoot this wide, aren't we? So it was, how can we build a kit and what lenses are going to be right for this and everything else to make sure that we can shoot this, because we also had to deliver it as a 16:9 afterwards.
Yeah.
And that was the challenge, I think, because you're shooting that, which means you've got that much dead space, but the edit that we've got to do afterwards has got to include that dead space.
It was literally like, if you put the thirds on your camera, it was literally like that middle strip.
Yeah. Even less than that, though.
I think it was a little bit less than that, yeah.
Yeah, it was incredibly thin.
I think we did end up shooting most of that on like a 10 to 20.
Yeah.
And
what were your thoughts on the setup? So let's discuss that. So obviously I gave you the call. So James, you've been promoted to DOP. You've been promoted to DOP on this.
I instantly shit myself.
Yeah, instantly thought, oh crap. And basically, I sort of explained what we've got to achieve and the width. What were your thoughts on the lens setup and whatever else?
Well, it was. I really remember chatting to you about it. But when you were telling me at the time, when you were telling me the height and the dimensions, I don't think I actually realised until like even after the first day, like how little screen we had to play with. Because I remember thinking, did you go away and do a crop or something? I think I might have come back on the first day and I did a test of the actual resolution. I was like, actually, I need to back off a little bit.
Yeah, mate, we need to shoot this wide. I mean, didn't we shoot it all at, was it 11mm?
I had a 10 to 20 lens on, I know that, so I think we just varied it up. But obviously the trouble you had is because you were like wrestling with a height and you were getting like trying to get a JCB within the 800 pixels, the width just became like you'd got loads.
Well, you couldn't light it though, could you, or anything, because I mean,
exactly
of the width you could see everything in the shot. I mean, even on the shots where we got the track and dolly in, the minute you'd pull back, you'd see the bottom of the track because it was just so.
And to be fair, we had the luxury of Seb, the gaffer. Hi, Seb.
Absolute legend, love you, man.
Thanks. But even still, we didn't have the luxury of like being able to rig things up high. Like we still had to move fairly quickly, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah, we did. I mean, there was a lot to shoot anyway over the course of those couple of days.
So it was a challenge, but to be honest though, like, and obviously another thing that you don't get when you're shooting at like a 10 to 20 is you don't really get any depth of field or anything. So like normally that film look that everyone loves, you sort of lose that a little bit. But to be fair, everything looks quite epic on it, doesn't it? Because it's quite wide.
Yeah.
Everything still looks quite epic and big.
Yeah, it does, yeah. I love the final output. I think it looks really strong. And I prefer the thinner one to obviously the 16:9 cut. Yeah. I don't show anybody that one. But, that was a request, so obviously we have to do that. And what James is going to do now is he's going to just give you a little bit of a preview as to 10 seconds of what this ad looked like.
Here we go.
And, I mean, looking at that, are you happy with the final result?
Yeah, man, it was good. It was good. There was a few little things, obviously, where, that time-lapse we did on the morning, I was doing some time-lapse stuff with the stills camera because it was really dark. And because the exposures were so long, we didn't really have enough time to get it in. But, yeah, man, like I was pretty pleased with what we came up with. Yeah. And the weather on some days, like there's a couple of shots in there where it's quite overcast and it's always like kicking yourself. But generally, like quite minor things, to be fair. It's a really nice job.
But I think working with the Ursa was really nice on that because I just kind of fell in love with it on that job. I think that the footage looks amazing, but also the workflow, and it was just so easy.
Yeah, ProRes is easy.
But I just think it was a lovely camera, which is why obviously as soon as I finished the shoot, I've gone out and bought one, because I absolutely love it and I'd like to do more. And obviously now we've got both of them.
Yeah.
I can DOP and you can do behind the scenes.
That's it.
Get back to how it should be. I'm not
having you back.
I'm winding you up. Oh, okay. Like that, is it? Like that.
No, but it was a good job, that was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which one? We've done another cool one, though, haven't we? Oh, was it the West Midlands Trains?
We've done a few.
The Thingy one was good. The Fenton one was good.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
The
NEC, whole NEC.
With dry ice and everything.
Dark room, to ourselves, big green tractor, freezing cold. But we got the dry ice. We got a lot to shoot that day. We've got Seb again with his steerer tubes, which were great to have obviously in the background tubes and stuff like that. Yeah, they were nice to work with.
Actually, that's a really nice shot in the JCB one as well, in the story.
With the steerer tubes. Yeah, of course, yeah. Is it a steerer?
And I'll tell you what as well, I'll probably never see it, but the team at JCB, you were brilliant to work with. They were like really, really good. Like probably, just on such a a nice level.
Yeah, I really enjoyed they were my favourite client to work with.
They were really nice.
But they were really happy. I mean, it was the only job I've ever done where you've had free merch.
Yeah,
you managed to win yourself some boots. I had a nice coat.
Did you get a
I've
coat?
got a lovely jacket, yeah. That's because I stole it off the mannequin and just says, all right, you can keep it, that's fine. But yeah, it was a good job. So that was obviously...
They were really just relaxed, weren't they? Like, really on your level, like, just...
Yeah, and that's what wrapped up 2019, really, wasn't it? Yeah.
But yeah, the Fent thing was good. I really enjoyed that with the dry ice. I'm looking forward to seeing the output of that, to be fair. Because again, there was loads to do that day, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. It was a busy shoot, that was. I think we got there...
How many shots did you have to do? There was something ridiculous.
I think the final number...
Odds.
No, it was more than that. I think the final number was something like 78, which was unbelievable. I mean, I say that was more for the edit, so it might be one shot, but we clipped 3 clips out of that. But overall, I knew that there was about 78, or it might have been more than that we had to get on that day. So I think I told you that in the morning.
Yeah, I love it how like the first 2 hours, it's like you're going at a pace and then it gradually gets quicker and quicker.
Where you light everything beautifully. We got the track, we got it all sorted out, and then you realise, right, we've spent 40 minutes on that one shot. We should now be on number 12. We've got to get a bit of a move on here. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge to kind of speed through, and there's so much to do.
I think that's always the way, though, isn't it? With any job, like you sort of. It was sort of like when you were at school, your homework, wasn't it? You always just did it, like you always do everything up to the point where it's like, okay, I've got to hand it in now, or I've got to do this.
Yeah.
It's like you always just
nice detail.
It's like living to your means.
You have a new book, though, don't you? Have a new notebook at school. The first page, you write beautifully, and by the halfway through, it's just like you're all over the place. Yeah, so that was it.
Yeah, so that's good. So what are you doing now then?
So I've moved on now from Vermilion before Christmas, and I basically sort of spent Christmas thinking what I want to do next. I wanted to do my own thing again, and I focused on basically building my own brand. The Barrett Film Company, I wanted to do it in my name, purely because I've kind of made quite good relationships with clients in the past, and I've kind of found that I didn't want to hide behind a brand and have to focus on building a new brand for 6 months or something like that nobody's heard of. Whereas, I've already built that reputation. I've winged it for so long that I wanted to make sure that, I actually put that to test. So I set up the Barrett Film Company a couple of weeks ago. Two sides to it really. So there's me as a freelance director, camera operator, sort of producer, editor, using my marketing skills in that way. And also going in and consulting as well. So if a client doesn't know exactly what they want, I can go in, I can advise, and I'll help to build that film strategy for them, as well as then obviously the directing and stuff like that for the various production companies, etc. But then there's also the full project side as well. So that's still me being able to go out and work for different agencies, answer tenders, answer briefs that they might bring to me, and then be able to basically bring in the right team. I'll take probably a bit more of a step back on those jobs and won't be so full on with cameras and things like that. I'll probably take more of a sort of producer role with those, or a director role. And then that's when I'll get in experts like yourself to come in and shoot those for me, or with me, sorry. And obviously make it more of a sort of collaborative effort with people. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's very fresh. It's been a couple of weeks. There's some big plans for 2020. I'm just trying to get myself out there as much as I can, and basically just build up the pipeline really with work to come in. So it's exciting.
That's good, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Looking
That's
forward to doing more stuff together.
Yeah, and we will absolutely.
Yeah, it feels like a natural place to end, to be fair.
Yeah.
We've done quite
I've got nothing else to say, so I'm, to be honest, really in need of another cup of tea. So I think we should leave it there.
Yeah, we've done it, haven't we? We've finished the teas. So this is episode 3. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please check out Jake's website, which was on here.
Yeah, and he's now got last episodes up, by the way. So he's giving you a secret reveal here.
Look at this. How's that gone off there? Anyway, yeah. So that was the previous episode to this one, which hasn't come out yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, check out Jake's work, and yeah, if you've got time, check out some of mine, please.
Thank you.